Amplify your career through training and development solutions specifically designed for federal government professionals. From courses to help you attain or retain certification, to individualized coaching services, to programs that hone your leadership skills and business acumen, Management Concepts optimizes your professional development. Online, in person, individually, or groups, it's training that's measurably better. Learn more at managementconcepts.com. That's managementconcepts.com.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Welcome to this week's Harness Racing Alumni Show. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here today with Trade Martin, Bob Marks, and Andy Cohen. This week's show is brought to you by Capital South, LLC, a Washington, D.C. lobby and public relations firm headed by Washington, D.C. top lobbyist Marty Irby. For more information, call or text 202-821-5686.
Once again, that number is
202-821-5686.
Capital South, LLC, Marty Irby.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show is the #1 harness racing podcast in North America. We have sponsorships and advertising spots available. For more information, email rrtrotten@outlook.com or visit ustrots.com. The statements and opinions of our guests are their personal opinions and beliefs, and it does not necessarily represent the opinions of the Harness Racing Alumni Show or of its host.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show with your hosts, Freddie Hudson and Trade Martin.
Joining us this week is former racing Presiding Judge Art Gray. Art, welcome to the Harness Racing Alumni Show.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Art, before we start, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in harness racing and how you became a regulator?
Well, I had when I was in high school, I had a friend that his father owned horses. And I went over and a couple of Saturdays and jogging horses, and that was it. I was in. I got my trainer's license. Unfortunately, I was going to have more respiratory infections from allergies than I was wins. And George Morton Levy and Larry Maller and Buddy Gilmore at Roosevelt helped me get on as a patrol judge. I was a patrol judge for about a year. And I was up in the stand, I guess, by 79 or 80. I spent a number of years as associate judge and then 25 as a presiding judge. I've been involved with a number of integrity issues, specifically with Jeff Garrell and racetracks using the right of exclusion. And I'm contacted by horsemen's associations that are having difficulties and aren't able to have their situation rectified. So I help out the horsemen where I can.
Okay, you basically said exclusion. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by the racetracks with the exclusion?
At the racetrack owner, there was a case in the 70s, and I believe it was John Barchi who was barred from Roosevelt Raceway, and he went to court, and he lost, and he wanted to appeal, and he went to the horsemen at Roosevelt Raceway and tried to get them to to finance taking the court case on appeal to a higher court, and he failed. And what the result was that the racetrack owners have a right to exclude an individual if that individual participating creates a detriment to their business. And that has stood for how many years? 50. And unfortunately, more and more the commissions over the years have been deemed unsuccessful with their regulating efforts, and which is leading more racetracks and specifically Jeff to turn to the using the right of exclusion. The right of exclusion, what we're trying to do is to not replace the commissions. What we're trying to do, the track ownership has this right of exclusion, and it complements the actions that the commission takes. So try and do this without creating angst between the commissions and the racetracks. But the racetracks feel that this is something that they need to do because of the public's poor perception of the sport and the lack of commissions following through on what they need to do.
Well, Art, you have brought up the commissions. Now, you have been very vocal against the commissions and stewards for not properly doing their job. Could you also elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, the most immediate case that everyone's aware of was the Charlie May situation. And I had written a number of articles about the importance of the stewards and the judges getting all the information available before they make a decision, especially if they're making a placing, going to take something away from a horse that and an owner. In Charlie May's case, where I believe was a $700,000 race, and he had called me, and I told him that I wasn't going to get involved in whether it was a right decision placing the horse, but that something that I had been preaching was that the drivers and the judges in this instance didn't get any input from the drivers. So there's a lack of due process under the law. They made a decision without all the information that's available. And I have had situations over the years, like I said, I've been in the stand 30 years, where there's times that there was something that wasn't obvious in the course of watching the race and on the film. And when I talked to the driver and said, hey, no, this guy caught a wheel, or I caught a hook, and if you look close enough, like with the head on, and you can see that what he was saying was the truth. So this situation's maybe, far and wide from occurring, but it just shows that it's important to get all the information you can before you make a placing. Now, I trained a lot of judges, and I always talk to them about this. I don't know how the following generation got away from talking to the drivers. The biggest thing they say, and like in New Jersey, was that, that they're going to lie. They're not going to be straightforward. But a presiding judge, if you know what's going on, you talk, you show the film, you get the driver on the phone, and you use questions to get out, did he come out a bit here? He said, well, yes. Well, it looks like he might have caught your wheel there a bit. Well, yes, but it really didn't cost me anything. And he said, well, but if, you got hit and you had to take back, then you lost something, and that's interference. But the judges today, they don't do that. They just, for the most part, look at the film. And this is something that Andy Cohen wrote about. This Keeping Pace article was excellent, because that was another situation where the stewards and the judges don't follow through. Talking to trainers, owners, grooms, whoever's with a horse that dies on the grounds or in a paddock. I mean, when I was a presiding judge, the security had, there was no, you could, a dead horse cannot be taken off the grounds without me being notified. And I wanted to know what barn the horse came from and where it was going and if the necropsy was being done. So the judges seem to today have gotten away from proactive and just being reactive. I mean, there were judges that know that they won't post an inquiry unless there's an objection. How many times is there an objection? And I've had presiding judges tell me, well, if there was an issue, they should have called. If they're not willing to call and tell me what's going on, then, that's their loss. But it's his job to make sure that these things are taken care of and that the patrons and the owners of the racetrack and the owners of the horses are treated appropriately.
Yeah. Now, Art, in the thoroughbreds, don't the stewards there talk to the jockeys after an inquiry?
Yes, they talk to them afterwards. They have to go there. Actually, most racetracks, there's a phone right at the officer winner's circle where they can talk to the steward. What they also have is what the stewards do is they'll have the jockey, even jockeys that are not being placed. If there was a jockey that put in a questionable drive, he's coming in the next morning, and the stewards are reviewing the film, and he has to explain, why he did what he did. And I found the horsemen have to know, the drivers have to know that you're watching. I mean, I would call if there's a 4 to 5 shot, and he had a shot coming to the half, to tip, and he doesn't pull, and then he ends up being buried. Well, I start thinking, is this an error in judgment, or should I start looking at, at payoffs to see whether there's some irregular wagers being made? So there are things that the judges need to be more proactive, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Although I should say this, after the Charlie May incident, the Judges and Stewards Association proposed what they call a Charlie May rule that I don't know how far it's gone, but the rule is that the presiding judge is required to get the information from the drivers involved in the incident.
Yeah. Now, Art, over the last few months, since May, our sport has had 15 accidents. What are your thoughts on that, and what should we be doing to prevent these accidents?
Well, you're right. There have been a lot of accidents, and noticeably so. Quite a few in a short period of time. Part of it, some of the accidents are smaller racetracks where maybe the drivers aren't as talented as like say drivers at Woodbine would be or at the Meadowlands. With those tracks, if somebody's got a wheel under you, it's there for a reason. They know exactly where they are, and the drivers at the smaller tracks, they can't handle situation like that. I can't, like the thoroughbreds had a major problem going up to last year, but HISA, their program implemented has, in their control of watching the racetracks and testing the surface, has really cut down on a number of incidents that the thoroughbreds have had. But I haven't viewed any of the accidents to see, exactly what was the cause of, if there was a placing. But I think it's just a matter of maybe the drivers not paying attention to, exactly where they are.
Do you think maybe that the driving style nowadays has something to do with it, with the handholds so far back?
Yeah, I mean, going back, I've been retired. This is 11 years. So going back 25 years. I started, I guess Walter started it. I was down in Yonkers for, the entire time that, that Walter was there. And, the only way Walter, if the heels come off Walter's boots, he was going to hit the racetrack. That's how far back. And there was times he was leaning back and the horse coming up, horse behind him, his horse's muzzle starts coming up over the top of his helmet. And then there were other guys that at the time I was at, I would fill in at Monticello, and the drivers started doing this, and there were drivers that didn't have the talent to do this, and they shouldn't be doing it, because if their horse knuckles over, there's no way that they're going to be able to keep the horse on its feet. He's knuckling over, and he's going down, his nose is hitting the racetrack. The other thing they do is they're leaning back like this in the stretch. They're highlining and coming down the stretch, and they seemingly have no control. They're just a passenger. And this is something that could, like I said, I didn't see the films, but this is certainly something that could increase the number of accidents in a race.
Yeah, I only have two more questions for you. Do you think our sport is doing enough to clean up the illegal drugs?
Well, there's more that can be done, for sure, but it's going to take money. I mean, the biggest thing we need, like if you talk to Doc Malin at Cornell, is research. Like there's a discussion going back and forth on screen testing versus clearance testing. Screen testing is where that commission calls a positive for the absolute lowest amount of a set nanograms in the screen testing, and the clearance testing. They need to have absolutely nothing in the horse's system. I know it's really difficult. I mean, part of it is like, again, which Jeff has done, is using the right of exclusion. But it's tough. There's definitely more that can be done. But the other thing that's an issue here is that maybe HISA can do something to help if we can get harness racing involved. Is have uniform testing, and across all the jurisdictions. But unfortunately, our business, no matter how common sense an issue is, it's very difficult to get a consensus to accomplish anything.
Yeah, that was my next question, which should harness racing join HISA, or should it remain with the status quo?
Oh, no. HISA, we need to get involved with HISA. I mean, the USTA, their lawsuit wasn't taken for under consideration by the Supreme Court, and it's just as well. I mean, I know that Jeff is in favor of harness racing getting involved with HISA. I haven't had any detailed discussion with any other racetrack owners as far as their involvement. But the commissions, they're against it. And how? I mean, we need not just HISA. We need one entity that's going to rule all the jurisdictions, like Major League Baseball or the NFL Players Association. And unfortunately, with the politics involved, I don't see that happening. But HISA is a good start, and if we can get involved there, we can take the next step and expand the program.
Okay. Hey, Trey, did you want to jump in here with anything?
Excellent, Art. You explained a lot of stuff. What did Bob think?
By all means, it's an excellent program. Art, you were fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Art, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. You're welcome, guys. Anytime.
Okay. Now over to Andy for this week's Keeping Pace Weekly Update.
Thanks, Freddie. Actually, I'm going to take a week off. There's going to be no Keeping Pace column this coming Monday. I'll be back right after Labor Day with a new column. I thought Art Gray was great. I think he's a really important voice, a really important voice in the industry, and I encourage him to keep going, keep fighting. Thanks, Freddie. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Andy. The Harness Racing Alumni Show is the #1 harness racing podcast in North America and is listened to worldwide on multiple platforms, including Spreaker, iHeartRadio, USTrots.com, HarnessLink, Google Podcasts, and many others. To our audience, thanks for listening, and please join us again next week.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show